Hey friends, I want to talk about yin and yang and an insight that I had yesterday about yin and yang. Just to set some terms, River has a great tweet where he says something to the effect of yin is allowing energy to flow where it wants to go, and yang is directing energy to where it wouldn't otherwise go. And I found that framing incredibly useful, and also his framing of the word metis or metis, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, as like the kind of discernment about which one is needed at a given time and how to use yin and yang and sort of right relationship to yin and yang and what the balance of them is. River's been doing fantastic writing about yin and yang this year, and it's been really clarifying for me. And a lot of, I spoke recently about some of the psychological transformations that I'm currently going through, and one of the subfacets of them is the way that different parts of me relate to yin and yang. And one of the things I'm discovering is that, again, at a deeper level, is there's just so much energy and joy and directedness and passion in my body-mind that I believe I have historically tamped down because it was uncomfortable for other people and it was sort of shamed. And I'm like, no more. I have no more patience for that. I am me. I'm going to do me. I'm going to bring it all. Nothing held back. Wholeheartedness. And, you know, there's still attunement. There's still presence with other people and with the circumstances and being context aware. And there's still ethics. But I don't want to hold back that passion or that energy or that directedness because it's my life force. It's my life force, and it literally kills me to hold that back. It deadens me. You can feel it. It's like depression is that at an extreme, and happiness is the full unleashed version of that energy. There's a dog right behind me and dude, so we'll make do with that. I think there is an infinite number of combinations of yin and yang and how to show up to a particular circumstance. And I've been learning how to decide which is useful when, and how to meet other people where they are and be receptive to what they want and what they need, but also honor myself. And sometimes it's the move to be yang even if someone doesn't want yang and isn't ready for yang. It would be sort of a self-betrayal to hold that back. I've also been learning how to take a yin approach to my own desire and passion and directedness. Christian, who's in the curiosity department, really helped me with that recently. We played a game where we showed up to a meeting and I asked him to choose yin or yang and for me to embody that one. And he chose yin, and that was difficult because I was in a very yang mood and I had to learn how to bring that energy in an authentic way while being yin about it. And I guess phenomenologically, I would say for me, yang feels like high energy, intensity, passion, knowing what I want, saying what I mean, like full honesty about what's happening for me and not holding back, not trying to adjust to other people, just like honoring myself. And then yin is surrender to the present moment, acceptance of reality, equanimity with what's present, accepting what's so, trusting, letting go. Maybe it's like gentle curiosity, like curiosity about other people and their perspective, receiving other people and their perspective. And I can kind of go between these modes. I have both available, but there's kind of like a meta fluidity question of how to move in and out of them. And it just so happened, I was telling someone recently that I learned to drive 3 times. I learned to drive an automatic car when I was 15 or 16 as a teenager and got my license. And then when I was 25, I learned to drive stick shift. I learned to drive a manual car. And then right after that, I learned to drive again using a manual transmission for fuel economy. I had this G1 Honda Insight that could get great fuel economy, and I learned how to drive that car for that purpose. And those are actually entirely different ways of driving, and I can do all of them now, but they were different learning experiences. And that memory was sort of associated with this whole gestalt of fluidly switching between yin and yang, and the sort of metaphor of a manual transmission came to mind, which I found useful at other times for other things, especially with psychological stuff. And in reality, there's something like the continuously variable transmission that a Prius has, where there's just infinite gradations between yin and yang. And I think there's even multiple axes. And metis is really about discovering that. But for right now, I'm switching from like a binary model where there's yang or yin, which just wasn't cutting it, to yesterday I tried out this 4-speed transmission model where there's full yang and full yin, and then 2 in between, like partial yang and partial yin, for lack of a better term. Maybe I'll find other terms for these. But I'm trying this out now. It's just a frame. This is very fresh out of the oven, undercooked, not fully baked, whatever you want to call it. But it's interesting, so I'm sharing it live and kind of digesting this experience. And even the phrase full yang, I can hear someone being like, never go full yang, or maybe never go full yin. And I would disagree with that, even though that's funny, because sometimes it's really useful to go full yang, and sometimes it's useful to go full yin. And it's good for me to know that I can do those. But full yang is very intense, especially for me. And then full yin is like, it has an intensity of its own where it's like total surrender, just receiving. And that can be incredibly uncomfortable in the moment if there's like difficult emotions or what have you, or like intensity of experience. And it's just like, here we are. So full yang is like full energy, full intensity, knowing what you want, acting on it, saying it, doing it, nothing held back. Maybe this like very high intense energy, willingness to yell. Often I find myself yelling when I'm full yang, like, ah! Like, let's just do it. Let's go. It fucking matters. Whatever it is, it's in the context of what it is. And then full yin is like very quiet and very still and very open and receiving. And it's wild even to me right now to move between those. Maybe I'll come back to something about that. But then partial yang is like directedness. It's like saying clearly what I want, acting clearly what I want, but without the full energy. It's like going 40, 50 miles an hour instead of 100 or 200 miles an hour. It's like, I would like us to do this. I am standing for this. We should do this. Holding a perspective and stating it clearly, acting on it clearly. I've been doing that as a leader at the Guild Master. I'm like, we use SOPs at the Service Guild, for example. We're going to do this project. And then there's still within that receptivity of, oh, maybe someone has a different opinion or perspective, but you kind of have to take a stand in order for someone else to push back against it. You can't just like wish-wash your way through muddled perspectives. Like, people have to have a perspective, and then that invites other perspectives. So, and then partial yin would be like receptive, not acting on one's will or direction as such, but receiving in kind of an active way, where like I'm asking questions, for example. So I would say a lot of my podcasts, I'm in this partial yin mode where I'm mostly listening, but then I ask questions based on my curiosity and my desire that are about the other person and about their experience. There's still some connection to my desire in that I pick specific questions that I'm resonating with, but it's much more receptive, it's much more other focused, it's much more outwards focused. And that's a useful mode to have. So part of the reason this came up is like yesterday I was having a pretty intense conversation with someone for a couple of hours, and initially I was going in with this light bulb binary model of yin and yang and like which one is appropriate right now. And I realized toggling back and forth, like that doesn't feel quite right. Like, yeah, full yang is useful here and full yin is useful, but those aren't the only modes I want. And then I realized, oh, I'm kind of in these two other modes. And in fact, I kept getting images of like imaginally of switching between them, and then it became that's kind of what I'm doing here. And yeah, I think that for the different social interactions I have now, whether it's with friends or family members or at the guild, in the meetings I'm running, at the events I'm doing, whatever, it's going to be useful to me to have this 4-speed transmission, and maybe I'll discover more gradations or different axes. It seems like there's probably different axes, but for now, right now in media res, this is really doing it for me. And I'm reminded that Zencephalon gave me some advice the other day about these different personalities. I talked recently about masks and personas and like Taschen and not Taschen. I feel very Taschen right now, but with these other personas starting to come online where I'm expressing myself more fully. But he was like, why don't you try, rather than just binary flipping between them, like, oh, you're fully Tasshin, or oh, you're this other one, why don't you sort of pendulate between them and move between them, and not just have hard forks from one to the other, but like do one for a minute and then do the other for a minute, and see in particular how your body feels and how you're holding your body and what it's like to move between those different modalities. And then that should create the conditions where they can kind of integrate. And that's been already extremely helpful. There's been this personality I've been calling Snake that I've been connecting to, that feels related to but different from my dark part that I've worked with earlier. And then there's this like very boyish Tasshin that like is very high energy and speaks in a high voice. Like, I'm so excited. It's a beautiful day out. Like, I'm so happy. I'm gonna get to see my friend later tonight. I'm so excited. Like, it's very boyish, and I want to like jump up and down and just be excited and be happy. And even now, just like dipping into that and then coming back to Tasshin feels really good, and I can feel relaxation in my body and release and integration, where there's much more wholeness here than there would be if I am Tasshin and I do things the way that I do them and I have my ideas that I'm fixed on. There's just so much more, again, like range of motion that's possible here. That metaphor has just been so potent for me of like, yes, I'm really good at directedly steering in a specific direction as Tasshin, and that does seem like the core of my being, but just to allow other kinds of motion and fluidity of expression where different circumstances really do call for different things, and there are silly parts of me and happy parts of me and dark parts of me and jaded parts of me and pissed off parts of me, and those all need to come alive in order to be a full human and give my fullest gifts and show up as best I can. And somehow I have to learn to fluidly move between these. So that idea of pendulation, and also this 4-speed model of yin and yang, which seems really key to all of these kind of personas. Like, maybe that's the axes, is like how much yin and yang there is versus like which persona is bringing yin and yang energy. I don't know. There also seems something about just like energy level generally, and like which emotions are present. I don't know. I'll probably think about this differently later today or tomorrow or next week or 5 years from now, but that's why it's useful to digest this stuff live as it's coming up. And yeah, I'd be curious to hear any thoughts that you have. Feel free to share them in the comments and let me know what you think. And I'm sending you love. Take care, friends.